Greetings, Lucky Legends. Welcome to the dojo. My name is Lucky. This is Lucky Lad TV. I am your host for this video, and in a long-awaited arrival, we have a good friend of mine. He can introduce himself.
What's hatching, Toga peeps? OldManTup coming at you today with a sit-down interview with Mr. Lucky Lad himself.
Indeed. So, for those of you who are unaware who OldManTup is, first and foremost, shame. Second of all, of course, all of the links to his channel, Twitter, Twitch. You do stream on Twitch, correct?
From time to time.
Well, if he's done it once, it's going to be in the description. Along with probably some links to... Probably a link to the GBA channel as well, because you can see Tup on there. But primarily, go check him out. He's a great guy, great content creator, great dad from what I've seen as well. And he has a dog, so, can't go wrong.
Yeah, if you see my arm moving, he's pestering me to pet him right now.
Yeah. I know I have 4 dogs myself, so I know from experience. I have to close my dogs out of the room because they will lick my face in the middle of a video.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's the downside, I suppose. So, as you know, the real point of this series is just get to know your favorite content creators. Get to know them as people, not just figures behind a screen. And one of the things that's been going around the community as of late is the whole strip down challenge. And I'm sure you've seen, a few people have done it. Shady did it, Crimson did it, John did it, Steve did it, and I think that's a really good thing to have in this community, because it's it's kind of like the purpose of this series, which is get to know your favorite content creators as people. Because one of the things that a lot of people sort of overlook or even ignore is that we don't sit behind a computer all day recording, editing, rendering, uploading. We have other things to do. I have a job. I work as a chef. Crimson has a job. He works as a manager at a restaurant. Shady has a girlfriend and family that she spends time with. You have a wife, family, kids, a job. I don't actually understand how you have any time to do any of this. I really don't.
Well, that's one of the secrets to time management, is just finding time to fit everything in, and that's why from time to time sometimes things get sporadic on my channel. It just so happened with all these issues that I've been having with my hip that I've had a lot of free time because I can't physically work. So, it just so happened, it was really coincidental that happened about a week before I was asked to join the GBA Season 4. So I was like, well, I'm going to have the next few months free to deal with this hip issue, because at the time I didn't realize I was going to have a full replacement. I originally started off with a cyst growing on the femur in the joint itself. And it was, okay, the recovery time for that is 3 months after the surgery. That's plenty of time to get everything I need to do for the GBA. I'll have plenty of time and be able to split everything up. Well, then it turned into I'd been off since the end of February of this year, and then I needed a full hip replacement. So, it was just one of those things. I guess I'll say I'm fortunate to have this problem when I had it, because I was able to jump into the GBA, be able to get into some of the administrative stuff on top of that because of how much time I've had. And it's just, fortunate misfortune, I guess.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us at the GBA, I can only speak for myself, but from personal experience, it's really good having you there, because if you think about it, the GBA is a bunch of kids. I think...
More or less.
Shady or Steve... No, I think Miguel is the oldest. He just turned 26, barring you. And I really think we needed a father figure in there to to sort of patrol the hallways, so to speak, and be like, all right, guys, stop. Because, like, especially after GBA Season 3 and all of the shenanigans that happened there, we really needed somebody to be like, guys, remember, this is a video game. You need to calm down. And from personal experience, I haven't had any issues with anyone, but I have seen firsthand you patrolling the hall saying that not the place, not the time, take it somewhere else. And I think that's a very good thing to have, and I'm sure that comes from you being an actual father.
Well, I mean, that comes from age and experience. It's just one of those things. The internet is such a vile and disgusting place. It's real easy to get sucked into drama and controversy. And sometimes you just need that Jiminy Cricket sitting on your shoulder and say, hey guys, remember, it's the internet. Don't let it get to you. Don't get sucked into it, because the only person you are looking to look like an idiot is yourself, because the other person doesn't care.
Yeah, that's beyond true. There's not really anything I can say about it. For those of you who, if you need advice or guidance, I would say, if it's something simple, go to, a friend. But if you need, like, real life guidance and information, go to an actual adult that has had a life. I.e., go to someone like Tup, who has had a life. If you've had a hip replacement, then you're an adult. Like, you're the definition of an adult. And I know that I personally have come to Tup one or two times to say, like, hey, I don't really know how to deal with this in reality. What do I do? And I know that Tup is always, more than happy to help, because that's just the type of person that he is. First real question that I have is the name that you have chosen for your channel.
Now, I don't know how long you have been a Togepeep, but this is actually either the fourth or fifth incarnation of a YouTube channel with this variation of the name. I started out way back when, I think it was like 2008, right in the heart of 4th gen, when I made my first channel. I mean, that was back when the forums were really popular. You were either on whatever the heck Magnitude ran at the time. There was Maryland was really popular. The Pojo Pokemon forums were really popular, and even the Cerebi Pokemon forums were extremely competitive and popular. And I mean, that's where everyone met back then. Now you meet someone through YouTube and all that jazz, which is fantastic. But I mean, it wasn't like that back then. I mean, this was back before anybody got paid to do anything on YouTube, and it was a different time. And it's weird to look back and think about that, because you made content and you didn't base your, for lack of a better term, success off of how lucrative it was. And I'm not saying that people do that now, but I mean, that is the baseline for success in this world. Can you make money doing what you do? But back then it was, if you broke 1,000 subs, you made it. You were popular back then. And you look at that now, and that you think that's a joke. Oh, 1,000 subs, that's nothing. But back then, if you could get 1,000 people to watch your Pokemon content, you had made it. And the first incarnation of my channel was named Tuperius5, and that channel, unfortunately, had a hack issue, where I was doing parody videos at the time, and I stepped on somebody's toes, and I cleared the video with them, but when they saw the video go public and the response it got, they got a little upset about it and had some very good hacking friends. So all my stuff from that channel was just gone. And I tried recovering it, but, that's in the past. That's neither here nor there. So from there, I went to a Tuperius channel where the S at the end became the 5. And that channel just never really picked back up the momentum my first one had. And I got away from it for about a year. And then I got back into it when went to Pokemon Nationals competition in Indianapolis with all my friends. Black Spotted Zebra was there, Fizzy Stardust was there, Super Blah 411 was there, Magnitude was there, Saya Sandstorm was there, and I know I'm going to forget somebody and feel like a turd when I go back and watch the video. Yeah. But, I mean, everyone that I was really good friends with from the Abras Asylum forum that we had created was just, we went there, and that got me back into it. Got me into the TCG for one. It got me into the video game again really hardcore because 5th gen killed Pokemon for me. I absolutely hated the competitive aspect of 5th gen. And it was just one of those things, everything that I loved about 4th gen they took away. They started Team Preview. Explosion got nerfed hardcore. And some of the other things that just changed, really, I didn't like it and I didn't get into competitive as much. After that, that channel was called Tup Tuppleton, and that was my persona for that. And then when I Tup Tuppleton, I was a Pokemon interviewer, and that was interesting. But that kind of, again, fizzled out because of lack of time and or desire to do anything about it. And then when I realized that it was a possible serious thing that I might be getting into the GBA, I was like, okay, if we're going to do it this time, we're going to do it. We're going to be serious. We need to come up with a name that's going to personify this thing right here. And I was like, I am like the oldest competitive Pokemon player that I know of that had ever uploaded about the stuff that I had uploaded. So I was like, I like coffee. Old man in the 1st gen couldn't do anything without his coffee. Let's go with OldManTup. And it stuck. I ran with it, and that's what we're going with. So that is the lead up to how OldManTup became a thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will probably splice out just the part where he says, I can't live without my coffee. The old man from Gen 1 can't live without his coffee. Call me OldManTup. I will probably splice that out and add it to a highlight reel because that is greatness. That is pure greatness. For me, my name originally came from just the luck that I had with TCG polls, but it very, very quickly changed to the fact that I'm lucky to be able to do this. Because if you think about it, some of the people that I've had the chance to interview are just legitimately successful on YouTube, and they're willing to take the time and energy out of their day to spend sitting at a computer screen talking to me. And that's, if that's not luck, I don't know what it is, because it's certainly not skill, because no matter how skillful you are at something, it doesn't mean you're going to get anywhere with it. And when you interview somebody like GlitchX City, who is the source of pretty much all the music that you find on pretty much anyone's Pokemon channel, and then you get to interview her a second time, it's pretty overwhelming in this when you look back at it, because it's like, why did she let me do that? And I can't speak for you, but my guess is when the GBA approached you to join, you're probably like, why?
No, that's actually completely the opposite of what happened. And that's, Steve and I have been friends for a very long time, and I say this constantly. I mean, I'm not throwing it out there because Steve and I have been friends for so long. But I mean, we've been friends before the GBA was a thing. We had met prior in Paramus, New Jersey for a regionals event. We had met in New York City when Black and White came out for the release event in a mall. And I mean, we had been good friends for quite some time. And the fact was, he told me that if I didn't stop harassing him, he would have never let me into the GBA. So, I mean, it was one of those things. I kept hearing it was coming back out. I'd be like, hey, Steve, you've been telling me since season 1, if I don't get on your tail, you're not going to add me. So what's the deal? And he's like, do you want in? I was like, you're darn right I want in.
No, I just want to bother you. I don't want to join. I just want to bother you.
I know, right?
That's some classic Steve right there, where it's just like, dude, I know you want in, but if you don't remind me, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, Steve, my article, I got it, Steve. It's been 3 days, and but you gotta love Steve. He's glue. Steve is glue for this community, because he just has this uncanny ability to bring so many different people from so many different worlds together. And like, especially if you look at the GBA, it's literally global. You have somebody from Germany, you have somebody from Spain, you have people from all four corners of America, you have people from probably other places that I can't. You had some people from England, not as coaches, but they are still part of the staff.
I mean, we've got people all the way from Bangladesh. We've got people from, like you said, England, Europe, greater parts of Europe. I don't know if we currently have anyone from Asia or Australia, but I mean, we've got pretty much most of the world covered with. And it's just one of those things that if it wasn't for Steve, I'm sure the draft format would have popped up eventually.
Yeah.
But the fact that he saw this being popular with something that was a sporting event and was like, I wonder if I can turn this into something good with Pokemon. And even though it's had its ups and downs, I would like to personally say that I think the GBA is shooting higher than it ever has, and we are reaching, I honestly think, as good as we're going to be getting anytime soon, and we're only getting better.
Yeah. Like, one of the things that I've noticed is that everybody goes to the GBA for their, like, as the standard. People are like, okay, the GBA does this, so we're going to do it this way, or we're going to do it differently so we're not copying. It's always in reference to the GBA. Like, I know the UCL, which I'm sure you're relatively familiar with, they said, we're not going to do it in the GBA style because we have some of the GBA coaches. I can't confirm that because I haven't asked, but I think it's kind of obvious that that's what their thought process was, because they had 3 GBA coaches on their roster, and I'm like, they're not just going to say, yeah, it's going to be the same.
Well, I look at it this way. The GBA is the Smogon of the draft format. Everyone criticizes it, but everyone goes there, like you said, for the standard. Because no matter whether you love them or hate them,
Right.
You look at Smogon to see what they are doing, because they are that standard. They are the standard in the competitive battling community in their format. And I mean, the GBA is the standard in draft format. Whether you draft a different way, whether you organize a different way, the GBA is the standard. And like you said, that's where people go when they want to see what is legit in the draft style format.
Like, one of the things that, in my opinion, the GBA is the best draft style format. I think it's the fairest, and I think it's the most legitimate, because they take certain things into account that other people don't. Like, if you take the Smogon tiering is not fit for the draft style format, because certain Pokemon that are in OU in the Smogon format are not as threatening in the draft style format, and certain mons that are in the Uber's tier are not as threatening, so that they need to be banned, whereas there are certain Pokemon in the standard, in the draft format, that need to be banned, like Mega Metagross. Mega Metagross is fucking terrifying.
Yeah, look what Dan did with it in the UCL.
I think he broke 30 kills And his initial prediction at the beginning of the season was, we're going to get 25. And he's just like, nah, we'll get more. When I see what he's done with that thing, that's the perfect example of he averaged 2 kills per week with that thing. That's not okay. No Pokemon should average 2 kills per week.
Right.
A Pokemon should average 1 kill per week, maybe. Like, if you look at Weavile from Season 4 of the GBA, that thing got, I think, 16 kills by the end of the season, I believe it was. And, you know, that's like 1.5
kill and a half about.
Yeah, kill and a half a battle. That's nothing crazy. That's understandable. But 2 kills per week, like, no matter what, basically, that's not something safe to have in a draft-style format.
And it's even more impressive in the UCL because they had 15 matches. I mean, and I'm not comparing the length of the seasons, but it did it time and a half longer than the GBA Season 4. We were only 10 weeks, and it did it for 15 weeks and got 30-plus kills. And that's just... And I mean, there have been pokes like that just... You see them in the format, and we have to make adjustments for it. Like, Supagassy and Reuniclus in the D-League just went ham with that thing. And, I mean, we had to adjust it in the tiering before we drafted this season. And, I mean, we all knew Reuniclus was good.
Yeah.
Standalone, but when Supagassy took it and won the championship with how good he did with it, we realized that maybe we need to take another look at this thing. And that's one of the nice things about the GBA. We're not set in stone. We're not, well, this is the way it's going to be, whether anybody likes it or not. It's, for the lack of a better term, the council on Smogon. When we sit down to decide something, it's not, well, elitist coach, and elitist coach make all the decisions. It's, hey guys, we need to vote on what are we going to do moving forward. Last season, Hydreigon was in BL, which is Tier 2 now, but Miguel just went crazy with it. Maybe we should look at moving it up the tiering list, and we did. And that happened with a lot of Miguel's Mons. They shifted slightly. And I mean, that's just one of those things where if you don't continuously adapt what you're doing, the saying is adapt or die. So, I mean, and that's why I think the GBA is remaining to stay relevant and popular at the current time, because we are constantly evolving the product we're putting out to meet the current need that the community has.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, a Pokemon is only as good as the coach that's wielding it. But if you have a coach that brings out the best in that Pokemon, then you realize, okay, maybe that thing's more dangerous than I thought it was, because you had somebody innovative enough to show how threatening it was. Like you said, Hydreigon. Hydreigon has a glaring 4x weakness to Fairy. However, if you have a coach who very expertly and very consistently uses that almost to his advantage, you're like, okay, maybe that thing's a lot more dangerous than I thought. Maybe we need to move it up a bit, because in this format, it's a lot more dangerous. Because it's all about, counter-teaming.
Right.
And one of the things that I wanted to mention is that you drafted exceptionally well this season.
Thank you.
To the point that I actually emulated your draft a little bit in one of the smaller leagues that I partake in the sense that I'm like, I need Excadrill. And when I heard you discussing it live on stream, we were able to figure out pretty quickly which Mon you were choosing. The build-up was, just for, just for show, really, but...
Yeah.
But nevertheless, all the points you made were very, very true. You need versatility in this format. You need something that can do more than one thing. Mega Beedrill is not the best in this format. It hits like a truck, and it is super fast. But if your opponent has any form of physical priority, it's not really going to do you any good.
Yeah, and again, that's another thing that's one of those format-specific mons. Mega Beedrill is good. But, unfortunately, in the draft-style format, when someone knows that you're bringing that, and all they have to do is have a few answers to, drill, run, U-turn, or X's-er, and a poison, well, I mean, they got a steal on their team. They're guessing 50-50 that they're pretty much going to be able to wall you for the most part. And it's just one of those things. It's a fantastic mon, and I love it, but it just struggles in the format. And another Pokemon that we seem to always get the most flack for, no matter what, is Landorus Eye. And the thing is fantastic and broken in standard play, but in the GBA, when you know for a fact it's coming, Ice. You can tailor your team around it, and yeah, it gets hit by anything ice, and that's pretty much end of it. And there's so many Pokemon that are very popular in the format that either can abuse Hidden Power Ice or have that weird slot Icy Wind move that are going to take it out and slow it down, that it's not as threatening as it appears to be.
Then you add things like the fact that Ice Punch is now a move to move, so a lot more mons get that. Ice Beam's a TM, it's not that hard to get. Icy Wind was made a move to move, it's not that hard to get. Hidden Power, you just have to change a couple IVs, you have Hidden Power Ice. And I actually think in the format, Landorus Therian is more dangerous than Landorus Incarnate because it has that Intimidate, so it's harder to take out with a physical move. Whereas Landorus Incarnate, you can still Ice Punch it, and it'll explode basically. It's a format difference because basically if you're playing in the OU tier in Smogon, you're having to counter team about 300 or 400 Pokemon. In this format, you're counter teaming for 11 or maybe 12. The difference is so substantial, which is why there are so many Pokemon that you can be like, yeah, that thing is safe for League play, like giving Greninja Torrent or giving Blaziken Blaze. It's a different format. And that's what a lot of people fail to understand. They kind of just go, no, it's still broken. No, it's not. Your opponent has to bring 50% of the Pokemon on their team. You have a pretty good chance of getting some of them right.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things, if you know what they can bring, it's, like you said, as opposed to, how many Pokemon are in the standard OU tier? Like 72? Something like that?
I know it's a lot.
I mean, there's 70-something. So, I mean, you are game planning for what is ultimately 70-some Pokemon. I mean, that is what is standard in the OU tier, so that's what you expect to see 50% of the time. Well, when you change that to planning for 11 Pokemon, 7 or 6 of which you're going to see, as you said, half the time most likely. And don't get me wrong, some Pokemon aren't going to get used as much as others. Dan made that point very apparent last season. But it's easier to plan for things, and it's easier to tailor your team spread-wise with your effort values to make things more able to take hits. And again, everyone's going to have their opinion when there is we change something. And unfortunately, everyone was just so used to Landorus Eye being broken, which it is in standard format, that when we said, hey, we're going to bring it to tier 1, but we're getting rid of Mega Metagross, it was just Panic at the Disco.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's going crazy because, well, Smogon doesn't think this is this way, but you guys think this is this way, and Smogon thinks that's Ubers, and you guys don't. Well, why is it? And unfortunately, it's just one of those things that cooler heads never prevail on the internet. It's just everybody panics and is like, why is this happening? Before they take the second to understand it's a format difference, not that there's anything different with the Pokemon itself.